MDW. There seems to be the idea on the underground bunker that Scientology is excessively puritanical on sex, to the point where they wonder why Jenna and Bodhi Elfman wouldn't be sent to ethics for talking about their sex life on YouTube. But my memory from the late 1970s was that other than Hubbard's comments that homosexuals were 1.1 and that Sea Org members were not supposed to have sex before marriage, my impression was that Scientology tended to be sexually free. What changes to attitudes towards sexuality did you observe during the years you were involved with Scientology? Well, this is actually a pretty big question, but and I'm not going to go into the Encyclopedia Britannica answer. There were changes made because in the early 1980s there was a bulletin laid out called Pain and Sex, where Hubbard basically said that sex was totally artificial and was used in a very destructive fashion over the millennia, and that it was really not a very good thing. And he even said at the beginning of the issue that this issue is not going to increase my popularity at all, but it's research information, so I have to give it out, and yeah, whatever, dude. So anyway, Pain and Sex is used as a bulletin a lot in Scientology to repress and suppress sexual feelings and sexual desires and urges. And there's also a thing about masturbation in one of the early books. I think it's Creation of Human Ability, where he talks about how it's something that is that a person, when they're masturbating, will create pictures. They'll fantasize, and Hubbard said that in doing that, they'll tend to make the reactive mind, or the bank, more stronger. They beef it up, and so masturbation's is somewhat of a destructive activity. Although he never said the word destructive, as I recall, in talking about it. It was later that came down, and just about any guy who ever masturbates, if you're going to, in Scientology, when that comes up, you're going to end up reading this business from Creation of Human Ability, and you're going to end up reading Pain and Sex, and these are going to be drummed into you with such force that you get the idea that sex is just a really bad thing. So I understand that started with Miscavige more so than Hubbard, though. But I can't really tell. I wasn't around in the 60s and 70s, so I can't say for sure what the attitude about it was, except I know it was a lot more open, a lot freer. But I know that come 1980s, and especially into the 90s, word came down that, sex was like verboten for Sea Org members, and of course that attitude on the Sea Org clergy, on the Sea Org, would then filter down to the staff and to the public, because if you have a core of people who consider that there's something wrong with sex, or that sex is something that is supposed to be regulated, then they're going to regulate it on down the line as they see fit, and so it's become a much more controlled thing. And of course, as we know from history, when you start regulating sex and sexual urges and sexual behavior, you have all manner of trouble start, because people have, very strong urges, and when you say no, that's bad, then you're creating some mental, psychological problems for people, and that leads to all kinds of messes.